you have to have in the back of your mind the whole time that you're playing that if Leo's healthy, like you're losing your roster spot.
That was something that nobody actually expected because I know I was in shock.
He was screaming and he was like almost burst a blood vessel. And
But I have to ask, how's Leo? Oh, Joe! Welcome on in, brother. I appreciate you coming on, taking the time, and I appreciate you being here, man. This should be a lot of fun. Firstly, man, how you doing, brother? You doing all right?
I mean, this is as of recording, the night before the Team Liquid game and the day after the Foot game, so I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
Obviously, last week was a bit rough with the Heretics game, and I think we did a lot in the last week to kind of work and be ready for yesterday's game. And I mean, I think we kind of smashed them, to be honest. So it was a good day. So I'm in a pretty good mood today, I think, and really excited to see if we can lock up Toronto tomorrow.
Which, by the way, let's go ahead and set the record straight. Firstly, it's Toronto. You don't pronounce the second T. Let's fix that right now because I know you're gonna bring it up. Toronto, yeah.
Toronto,
great,
yeah. Okay.
Nice, good, clean, love that. So, going past that, like you're saying, right? So, just quick thing on the actual game for like, are you guys feeling ready for Liquid? Right? You think you got it? I know, because like personally, that's one of the games I've been excited about for the past week. And in my pick'ems, I also had that game specifically, so I was thinking this is good. This is gonna be good. It's gonna be a good ass game, bro.
Yeah, I am excited. I think they're in good form. I think that this used to be like the El Clasico, right? Like this used to be the game that you would watch EMEA for, Fnatic versus Liquid back in the 2021 days. And I think it's kind of faded where, you know, they've kind of struggled a bit. And then obviously they beat us in the finals back in 2023 to kind of ruin our golden road during that season. But no, I think we feel really confident, to be honest. I think that especially when you have Alpha and Kron hitting form right now, I think it's the perfect time to be playing these games. Kayak as well, I think, has played incredibly well this year after like starting a little bit slowly in kickoff. And yeah, I mean, Liquid is a strong team, talented team, but I think that if we play the way we did yesterday, then we should win for sure.
I think so too, right? Now I know there's something you said about Nats also just doing his thing, right? He's just like he sometimes had these incredible rounds where there's a reason why his name has no access to sight. So I think it can definitely happen. But nonetheless, I'm hyped for it. You know, it is tomorrow, so I'm sad we couldn't like maybe do this later after like you guys made Toronto, but it's okay. Point is that it should be a good time. I'll be watching as well, many other people too. So just to get one thing out of the way, which is it's the most requested thing every single time, and I know it's formalities, but I have to ask, how's Leo? I know you posted a little update as well too, but just give that to me again.
Yeah, so I think there's not really that much new to update people with. Like he does have the capacity to play the video game of Valorant for sure. Like I know some people were like asking me, especially after they saw artists talking about how they were like going to play Premiere together, and I would just say that when it comes to something like long COVID, it's a very unpredictable, you know, illness. You don't really know. There's only so much research on it, right? The disease has only been around for a few years. And yeah, he's, you know, just recovering still, going through different treatments, and you know, we're just, you know, doing our best to support him on the back end and make sure that he recovers in the time that he feels comfortable coming back. Because the last thing we want to do, right, is bring him back and then 2 weeks later he's like, oh, I feel terrible again, and then he has to go away for even longer. So yeah, we always want to make sure that when he comes back, it's the right time for him to come back, and that, you know, both sides feel that it's the right time to come back. And I think, yeah, Austin has done a great job. Crashies has done a great job filling in for Leo since he's been gone as well. So I think that we're just kind of progressing as if this is the team, right? And if Leo does recover and comes back, then that's, you know, a great potential bonus. But right now, I think we're pretty happy with what we have, and we're pretty confident that we can still have some great results this season with the group of players we have.
I think so too. Not so far, you know. I know you guys had a bit of a rocky kickoff, right? Which is fine. It happens. Like you guys were still kind of getting used to it. But then, nonetheless, which by the way, thank you for the update. I agree. You know, Leo is a phenomenal player, right? Which I know everybody misses. Everybody's where's he at? Right? Especially because it's so hard to separate the team from, like when you look at the highlights of Fnatic over the past like couple of years, right? So it's like, everybody remembers just the almost perfect season, and then like
Yeah.
Tokyo and so on, so and kickoff. So it becomes, and also boaster with the headband, with a head back like this, right? Just
Yeah. The iconic photo. Yeah.
yeah, it can be hard to separate that a little bit too, but like you're saying, right? I love that you guys keep updating us and like making sure that he is well supported, he's doing his thing, and I'm sure he'll be back when he's ready. Naturally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
No, but you also mentioned a name, which I think, well, I don't know. I think the main thing was because I was up early enough to catch this when you announced Crashies. That was insane. That was something that nobody actually expected, because I know I was in shock. Like, what do you mean, Fnatic Crashies, bro? that was crazy. Talk to you about that move and how you guys kept that so down low for so long, man.
Yeah. I think that part of it was genuinely just that he took a really long time to decide if he actually wanted to do it, because it was a really, really big risk.
Mm-hmm.
We spoke to like obviously a few different players during this period to figure out like who wanted to come in and take the spot, because you have to have in the back of your mind the whole time that you're playing that if Leo's healthy, like you're losing your roster spot. Like Leo is one of the few players in the world that an organization like Fnatic would actually give as much time as we have, right? Like we've been so patient with him and very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, whoever came in had to have that in the back of their mind. And I think especially for Austin, right, having to move across the world, leave his friends, leave his family, leave his girlfriend, like leave all these things, leave his support system to come to Europe. But I think for him, it ended up being that the idea of the risk and the potential payoff, and I think that he had some VCT offers like in addition to ours, and had some tier 2 offers in NA as well. Um, but yeah, I think that we did a pretty good job in terms of like, Boaster jumped on the call, was speaking to him. I jumped on the call, was speaking to him, and I think that it was one of the best interviews I've ever done with a player. Like me and Austin just like clicked instantly, like how we saw Valorant, how we saw the team environment. I think a lot of the ways that I described our team environment was like he saw some ways that it was similar to actually how Optic was
Mm-hmm.
in their glory days. He was like, the team always does things together. We try and stay really close. We, spend a lot of time together, like even outside of just, normal everyday activities as a team.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, how we kept it quiet, I'll be completely honest. One of the leakers did have the story, and I asked him not to run it. And shout out, you know who you are. Thank you for not running that story, because it was so much more hype and so much more. I think people forgot like how it is back in the day when leakers didn't exist, right? And you wake up one day and you're just like, we signed who? Like, I think I don't know. In my opinion, I would prefer potentially a world where it was more so the organizations got to like just do it, and then it's a surprise for everyone. But I know that that's not the world we live in now, and that journalism is still a thing, and we've just got to deal with it. But no, I mean the community response was insane. People were really shocked, so it was nice to see.
Yeah, because I remember, seeing the tweet, and then I was like, "This is a joke, right?" I thought you guys were fucking with us, and I was like, "It's not April 1st." And then I
Yeah.
remember just being like tweeting like, "What?" Like this is like, it was crazy, because I think
Yeah.
it has to be bar none, like one of the most unexpected moves like anyone's ever seen. Like anything like like I think more unexpected would be like for example like Forsaken coming to Fnatic, which by the way,
Yeah.
are you allowed to say like who you were kind of thinking of instead of Crashies, or in terms of the positions you had, or no?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm.
We were speaking to a mostly tier 2 EMEA players, to
Okay.
be honest. Um, we we explored like every option, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
even the craziest, like really high end, like star level players. But once again, like the role was very hard to pin down in terms of what are you actually getting if you're coming here.
Mm-hmm.
And even the tier 2, there were like some tier 2 EMEA players that we're speaking to that literally said like, I don't even want to trial with you guys because you can't guarantee me a full-time position. Patatek as well was a player we spoke to. I don't think I've ever said that before. We spoke to Patty, and yeah, he wanted more like surety, which is totally understandable, right? Around what the position is actually going to be, and then Lime and people like that as well in tier two that EMEA people would know. That wouldn't be too surprising.
Mhm.
But I think that the reason that we really went with Austin ended up being that, like I said, first of all, that call was just such on the same page. I also think that one thing that people don't realize, or some people do, people that are like pay a bit more attention and listen to like things like Mini and Me's Twitter Spaces back in the day,
Mhm.
is that Leo is like such a big person when it comes to the secondary calling, secondary IGLing, the mid rounding. Like he was such a big voice, and I think that was something we really struggled with last year, and that Boaster especially struggled with last year, was not having that second voice. You have other smart veterans in the team, right, like Kron and like Alpha, but I don't think it maybe comes as naturally to them as it does to someone like Leo, and especially in that role, right? And so I think that we saw Crashies as someone that could come in and fill that role pretty easily. All the references we did on him, everyone was saying that that was something that they were really happy with him, and that he was a really good supportive function for Finesse as well. So I think, yeah, that, and I think we can see it now, right? Like you see the vibes of the team, you see the supportive element, the bromance between him and Boaster now. Like
Mhm.
he has made Boaster's life so much easier, and I think you even see that on the mechanical side for Jake as well, right? Like you see his stats, you see that he's having like, I think statistically one of his best ever seasons right now. So you also have to think about not just who is this player, but like what is the impact this player is going to have on this player, and this player, right? So like Alpha having a veteran around to kind of be there and support him in tough times. Same thing for Jake. Same thing for Kayak as well, right? As a rookie duelist, having someone around that's been there and seen it. So yeah, I think that he just ticked so many boxes, and it sounds kind of crazy, but mechanics were one of the last things that I was worried about, because when you have Kayak, Chronicle, and Alpha on your team, normally that should be enough to like get you some good results. And I think that sometimes people do get like a bit obsessed over, okay, let's make sure we have enough fragging. It's like, okay, well that's good, but once you get to a certain level, it's like you still need to make sure all the different boxes are checked off in terms of leadership and mid rounding and in-game IQ and all these things that you won't see from looking at a stat sheet. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Right. And on that note too, because I remember talking to Austin about this both in kickoff and eventually going into split one, right? Where how his role has changed, right? Where I think you can see that actively, where before he was there to kind of set up Kayak as much as possible, and like, like and I remember thinking and watching that, like, this just isn't working. Right. There was something there that wasn't clicking, like where like the team seems almost disjointed. And so, you know, come time for next split after first masters, right? Things seem a lot better. Albeit, sometimes Crashies does play the human drone part, but you can see him now finally being able to play a more active role in the team, which I found just working so much better. His stats are better. He's fragging again finally. So it's like there is something to be said about that, which I think just works so much there. Now, not just to say the Crashies things too much too, but one thing that you kind of alluded to was like about how you and him clicked. And you've talked previously about identifying a Fnatic player, right? There's a certain portfolio and profile that you look for. So
Mhm.
I want to understand that as to what that means, and just outline that first for me, please.
Yeah, so I think that there's like it's just as important, I think, to know what like in my head isn't a Fnatic player
Mm-hmm.
as well as what is a Fnatic player, because I think that there are some extremely talented, very highly rated players in the world that I would probably never bring to Fnatic, just because they wouldn't fit you know, uh, the ecosystem and like, kind of the atmosphere that we have, because of whether it's they have some out of game issues or they have an in game style that they would prefer. Even that goes for coaching staff as well. Like there are some coaches that are very strict, right? Like I'll give you one example, and I think he would be fine me using him as an example. But Eng, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is like one of the best coaches in the world. Like I don't think anyone has ever doubted that. And even at the very beginning, back in 2020, we actually spoke to him to potentially be a coach at Fnatic.
Yeah.
Back even before SUMNFC was a big consideration for us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he's a very system head coach, right? And he's the kind of head coach that probably would not work super well with Boaster, who is a very creative, wants a lot of control as well on his side, IGL. So I think that on the coaching side, that was always a big thing for me, was that we need coaches that are going to work well with Jake, who's a very unique character, right? Like, as people are very aware, he's a very unique IGL. And I think that from day one, what I said to Minnie and Boaster when they joined was that I really want this to be a very collaborative environment when it comes to the relationship between the head coach and myself, and the relationship between the IGL and the head coach. I think they're like very sacred relationships for me in the team. And as long as those are good, then I think that we'll always have a pretty solid like base level for the performance of the team. But in terms of like just what your everyday player, like if I'm scouting for players, I think that the way that Minnie and I always saw it was that stats get you in the door, right? So if you're statistically like a good player, or there are certain stats that we look at, I won't go too deep into what those are, that if they're above a certain point, then it kind of shows that they're outperforming the league that they're playing in at the moment. Obviously, a lot of these players come from tier 2. And players like Durka, players like Alpha were not players that like we discovered, right? Like, these players existed, other teams would have known about them. But I think that what we did really well early on was that we not only like trialed them, but we did references on them. We got to know them, because I think that there's, you know, if you're someone that really likes being a part of a team where you don't mind going on team bondings, right? Like, you don't mind working with a performance coach, working as a very high level professional, you know, like we expect our players to be, you know, very professional, but we also want them to be able to have a good time. And I've always used this phrase pretty much ever since we started, but I just don't sign dickheads. Like, that's really, like, if you want to boil it down to like very like simple base level, is yeah, we just don't sign dickheads. I don't know if we have to bleep that for YouTube, but that's what I've always said to like coaches, and to even like, you know, Boaster is like very aware of that policy. And I think I think that what I've always seen, and even like my dad told me this when I was younger, but I think if you just invest in good people who have talent, then it will pay off in the long run. And I think that that's what I've seen. You know, like, the amount of times that people have pushed for Boaster to be kicked in this team is absolutely absurd, you know? And the amount of times like that, I think the first 3 years of Fnatic, I was getting hate for pretty much every decision up until the Chronicle and Leo one, which everyone was like, oh, you know, they've really pulled the coup there. So yeah, I think for us, it's always about, how is the player going to affect the environment that we have right now? Are they going to strengthen it? Are they going to be a potential risk factor to mess things up? Because I always think it's like a John Wooden quote, but it's about how like a good coach can make a good team 10% better, but he can also make a good team like 90% worse, right? So I think that if you bring in a player that messes with the team environment, that's going to piss everyone off. There's going to be a weird energy, and then all of a sudden everyone's performance might drop 20 or 30%. And then that all adds up, right? So I think for us, it's like, I've always said I would rather have an 8 out of 10 mechanical player that has a 10 out of 10 personality than a 9 out of 10 mechanical player that has a 5 out of 10, you know, personality. And I think sometimes teams, a lot of time, take that decision where they're like, well, this guy's like 2 years younger, and he's like mechanically like better, and he seems to, yeah, we've heard some bad things, but we can fix it. We can make it better. And it's like, you know, when you've been in esports for like, and obviously there are people that have been in esports for way longer than I have, but I've been in esports for 9 years, and I've spoken to a lot of very, very talented people. And I think that a lot of times it takes 10 minutes, 20 minutes on a call to really feel, you know, I remember, I won't tell you who this was, but I remember jumping on a call with a player that people would rate very, very highly. And he showed up, and I felt like he didn't want to be in the call. You know, I felt like he didn't want to be here. And I'm just like, if you don't want to be here, then I don't want you here. You know, like, I need to feel like you actually care, you know, and actually want to be at Fnatic, right? Like, we want players that wanna be here. And I think that's one thing that I really like too, is that players that have left Fnatic, like, very few, if any, I don't think I've actually heard any of our former players ever say anything negative about Boaster, about me, about Minnie, about the organization itself. Like, I think we've always conducted ourselves the right way, and I'm still like, you know, friends with a lot of the former players. Like me and Mystic still talk all the time. Me and Magnum still talk all the time. Same thing with Enzo, like all the old boys, like me and Doma, we literally went on, like he came out to Korea and then we went on holiday together afterwards. So like, I think that's one thing for me as a GM too, is like always having that closeness with the players, which can sometimes be a potential risk, but I think most of the time it works out for the best, because when you spend as much time together as we do, you really get to know players. And I think that's one thing that I've always prided myself on, is that I have a pretty good judge of character, I think, when it comes to people and to players, and understanding like what motivates them. And a lot, like there have been times in the past few years where I've told a player like, you need to do this because I know for a fact that this makes you happy or makes you healthy, and when you've done it in the past, you've played better, so let's just do that, right? And then they're like, I don't, all right, fine, I'll do it. And then the next game they drop like plus 25 kills and you're like, well, like, but yeah, I think it's there's a lot of different factors, right? Like in terms of how to build teams and like what players are best. And that's not to say that I'm infallible, right? Like I don't think we've always made the best decisions, and probably could have used more information on certain cases. And I think there's still a long way to go, especially on the data side, for like scouting players, and especially when it comes to like ranked players and young players. Like I think that other teams are probably doing a better job than us, obviously having academies and having these young players. Sayonara as well as one as well that maybe we can talk about, but yeah, it's yeah. I think I'm pretty happy with how we've done things in the past years.
I think so too. Now, I know there's something to be said about like, I remember Yinsu mentioned this, right? Where how there's a big culture, especially for younger players who want to come into to join Fnatic because they've seen how well, people like Boaster and Mini have been able to nurture and grow young talent, right? I think one prime example of that is Alpha, right? Who came in at like fresh, like 16, 17, like young Turkish player, which once again, as you said before, Turkish players simply are a different breed of human beings. Like they're just godlike humans, right? So
yeah, something in the water over there or something.
They're just good. It's probably all the Donaire, bro. The team. It's nice. So like there's something to be said about and Alpha coming in, and I remember Yinsu pointed to specifically about this game on Icebox where Alpha was like underperforming, wasn't doing that great, and then like Boaster pulled him aside and said, "Mate, you're all right. I just go in, shoot, do your thing, you're fine." Right? And Alpha drops like 30, right? So it's like it's a shift, the knowing that your team has your back, like your performances and everything, and there is a level to be able to grow. And you said a couple of magic words, which let me show you. It's those magic words of Mystic, Doma, Enzo, of SUMNFC.
Yeah, the OGs.
Yes,
hell yeah, that's awesome.
Dude, I love this scarf so much. I keep it very safely. I keep it tucked away because I don't want to get it dirty, nothing, right? And which big shout out to Minnie for giving it to me a champ as well too. Because like one of the big reasons was so fun backstory is back when back SUMNFC was still a thing, and Sue was doing her little like podcast on a stream, right, where it was just her and Boaster talking about EMEA back when you guys had best of ones, and none of them were broadcasted for some reason.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, dude. Like the OG days where none of them were broadcasted. Like, and like you had to just like guess and like think who's gonna make it. One of the teams like back when you guys had like ninjas in pajamas, Entropic, playing in there, and
Wave.
Yeah, like just like shit orcs who were coming in from CS thinking they could capitalize on this, right? And just it wasn't happening. I think even Astralis was there back then too, I think, right? So it was like a long time ago. And I remember Sue asked me, whether I could guess 3 teams that could go ahead and join SUMNFC as well in the top 4 for top 8 teams. And Manny was in chat saying, if you get all 4, right, I'll give you an analyst job on Fnatic. I got 3. So well, sorry, on SUMNFC I should say, right? So it's like but to this day, eventually you got to beat many years later on. I ended up getting this, so I love this dearly, and I bring this up because you talked previously about bringing in SUMNFC, who was the second best team at the time, but not a lot of people know or understand the process of building that team out. to eventually get to where we are today? Because you mentioned that there was like, you made constant moves, like, bringing people in and out to eventually make Fnatic close to what it is today. Lead me through that.
Yeah, so I think that the one thing I learned pretty quickly was that yeah, when I was on the original calls with Boaster and Mini,
Mhm.
there was a lot of conversations around, is the roster how it is right now the roster that we should continue with, and should we just ride it out? And I remember that I even suggested, like, hey, I don't think this player is really, at the level, and I think that we could probably upgrade right now. And they were very insistent. No, 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 this is a very important person. Like, we cannot move this player on. Like, the group is the way it is, and let's, move forward. And then I think we lost to either Wave or Alliance, or it was when we didn't qualify for the first online Masters.
Mm-hmm.
I very vividly remember me being in a room with Boaster and Mini, and bringing a whiteboard over and just saying, let's write down, the names of these players, which obviously, was Czech and Mo at the time. And I was just saying pros and cons, like, what are the reasons that this player should stay on the team? Like, and what are the reasons that they should go? And we also obviously had in mind, like, other players that could have been out there. And I was very insistent that we need to be aggressive. Like, and this was something that Patrick, my boss, Karn, who comes from Counter Strike, legend of esports, he was telling me the same thing about early on in a game like this. You have to be aggressive, because the players that you have right now are probably not going to be the best players in 3 or 4 years, right? And you can see that, right? That's very true. There are very, very, very few players left from 2021. And so that's why we instantly, went out, saw that Durka was a very, very standout player from Tier 2, or in the Russian league, actually, at that point, which I guess was kind of Tier 1 with the way things were structured. And yeah, that was a fun one, because he was actually at an organization with about 6 weeks left on his contract.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we spent $2,000,
No
three
shot.
$3,000 to buy Durka, which I still say is probably the best bit of business that anyone has, like, potentially ever done in Valorant esports,
Mm-hmm.
just in terms of value for money, for sure. And then the other one was that was Magnum at the time, bringing in
Mm-hmm.
Magnum as well. So, and Magnum, I remember as well, he still gives me shit about it today, of the way I told him that he joined the team. And I called him and I go, I'm sorry to tell you that you're going to have to play with Boaster for for the foreseeable future. And because he started to freak out, like, he thought yeah, I did the old switch up on him. Looking
Yeah.
back, I was like, this is young, kind of naive GM Cojo. Is probably a bit
Mm-hmm.
mean, but he started freaking out and screaming. And I think those are really special moments, honestly. Like, those are the moments I look back at and I just smile, because I'm like, he was screaming and he was like almost burst a blood vessel. And Magnum's probably one of my favorite players that we've ever had. Like, this kid is so funny. There's so many stories about the kid. I don't know if you were watching. We did like a reunion podcast or something at the end of last season,
Yep.
where we had like Enzo and Mystic
Mm-hmm.
and Minnie and Jake. Everyone was on, and
Mm-hmm.
we were talking about all the old days and all those stories. But yeah, I really enjoyed having Magnum on the team. So yeah, we were really aggressive, and then you pretty quickly saw the results, right? We made Iceland. We made it all the way to the finals. We ended up not managing to push that over the line, and this was also, keep in mind, peak of COVID, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is we're I remember we got to Iceland and we had to spend, like, I think it was 10 days
Mm-hmm.
in isolation rooms,
Yep.
and these were the smallest hotel rooms I have ever been in my entire life, and we were not allowed to leave. Like, I think I had to beg for like 20-minute walks, masked, isolated. Like, you can only go outside when it's just you. Like, this was peak COVID.
That's crazy, because Vision Strikers were out. Not Vision Strikers. Version 1, like back when it was like Zelsis and like they were like, they were outside chilling. Like
Yeah, I know. We were the rule followers. Like, what can I say, man? We were the rule followers for sure. But yeah, so then obviously after that, we had the only, or one of the very few tournaments we haven't qualified for, right, which was Masters Berlin. And that one was, we actually did a Poland boot camp. And this is actually an experience that Boaster talks about a lot in his interviews, where he talks about how it was probably like the lowest point in his professional career in terms of like his own performance. And he basically got himself in a place where he was so um, like obsessed with us doing well and making sure that we were staying on top of our game, that he was like refusing to go to team dinners. He wouldn't come to team bondings. Even if he did come, he would be like, what time? All right, I'm going to leave. Like, he was not with the team. He wasn't being a good leader out of the game. And that also then seeped into in the game, where he was just so stressed and so anxious that he really struggled. And after we didn't make Berlin, like me and we brought in our performance coach at that point, Marcus, and me, Mitty, and Marcus like sat down with him and had just like a bit of a come to Jesus, where we were just like, this is your job. Ultimately, we don't need you to be the star, because I think that what happened is you get to the final of Iceland.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you have 50,000 followers. You've got like all this attention, Boaster became Boaster, and we had, all the celebrations, right, that we did at Iceland, which brought a lot of eyes and got us a lot of fans from all around the world. And I think that's also the unique thing about Valorant, right, is because it's so worldwide. Like, your fans come from all over the place. And I think everyone on the team's heads got turned a little bit by the success and by everything that happened. But yeah, anyway, so we spoke to him about how to handle that his job is to be a leader. And this is something that I said to Jake in 2021, and I will say it to him, now still, which is that the only number I care about is exactly, right? Is 2-0, 3-0, like 13 rounds. That is your win condition. We actually have a bit of a joke between him and I that, like, every time he gets under 10 kills, we win the map. Sometimes he'll be popping off, dropping like 24 kills, and we'll lose the map. And I'm like, Jake, what are you doing? Like, keep those kills down, buddy. But obviously, we've shown this season, right, that like he can actually frag and we can still win games. But yeah, it's just kind of a little joke that we had early on. But yeah, then, I think the boot camp for Champs 21 was really good. Made it to Champs 21. Thank you very much, Gambit, for beating. Were they Envy at that point, or I think that was Envy at the time,
It
right?
would have
Not
been
Optic
Envy,
yet.
and then Optic came, I think, next year. Yeah.
Yeah. And then put us in for Champs and did all right. I think Champs is the one tournament where we're still really, really wish we could have done better by now. Like, top 4 is our best result, and that was in the 2023 season. But placed top 6, people really thought we were bad because we hadn't qualified for Berlin, and no one had seen us in like 4 months, right? That was back in the days where there were even less games to play, I think. So yeah, and then I don't know how like day by day you want me to go, but at the end of the 2021 season, we made kind of one of our first big decisions, right, which was getting rid of Doma, who was, yeah, probably one of the first decisions that I got a lot of hate for, because he was mechanically one of our best players for sure. But
Yeah.
and Doma will tell you this now, that he just like wasn't he didn't have the discipline at that time, or the maturity, I think, to really operate in our team in the way that we wanted him to. But I think he's matured a lot since then, and he's glad to see he's back in tier 2, and like, I think they made challengers, or they're about to make challengers, which, yeah, it's good to see for him. But yeah, so after that, we made that change, and then went into the 2022 season. And I think the tough thing in the 2022 season was COVID really kicked our ass that season, because of the because we brought in Bravaf, obviously, in the 2022 season.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, which was a bit of an interesting period because of the Russia stuff that happened, and then Durka got COVID before Iceland. All of a sudden, we're going into an international event with 3 healthy players. And I even remember that, like, it was almost like we weren't at an international event. It was so weird. We had to bring in Hyber and Enzo last minute, and the scrims weren't going well. People weren't really taking it that seriously because the expectations were so low on us. It like just generally was not an enjoyable event to be at. And at the end of that event as well was kind of when the decision was made that Magnum was going to leave the team too. So all of a sudden we had, 2 roster spots to fill because obviously Brave Off as well departed the team.
Mm-hmm.
So mid-season we have to replace 2 players, and fortunately, Mini has always been very on top of the players that are around, and him and I have always shared the scouting responsibilities. But I've always told him that the Alpha AR one is one that he spotted very early on
Mm-hmm.
and was like, let's try this kid. And so yeah, we were trialing a bunch of players. We trialed him and Fizzy. I don't know if you know
Mm-hmm.
Fizzy, the Portuguese player, player that we also trialed for Crashies
Yeah.
spot, or at least
Oh,
spoke to about Crashies spot.
right.
But vibes wise, like both were really good. Alpha's English was not good. It just wasn't good at that
Rough.
point.
Yeah.
I think you find that with a lot of young Turkish players is like the English level is like not that good. I think it's getting better like the more years we go on
Mm-hmm.
now. But yeah, we trialed Alpha, and I always talk about, everyone has heard the story about Durka's trials, right? Everyone knows he came in, he dropped 40 kills on Icebox, and we were just like, this guy is different, this guy is a superstar.
And he had hair back
Uh,
then.
exactly, yeah, it was a different Durka for sure. And then Alpha did kind of the same thing, to be honest. He came in and he was just dropping like 30 bombs every game,
Mm-hmm.
and we just said, like, I think Minnie and I always said that. Um, you need superstar level players. You need stars. Like to win things, to go far,
Yeah.
you need star players. You need players that have that X factor that can just win you games.
Mm-hmm.
You can literally see yesterday, right? Like Alpha just decided we were going to win the game yesterday, so he dropped plus 21, and what are you going to do
Yeah.
when the boys come to play like that?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we were like, all right, the English, we can get him a tutor, we can support him in the best way, and we have the perfect environment to kind of foster his growth. And we thought as well, balancing him out with Enzo, who was a bit more of a veteran, a bit more of a leader, was the IGL on his previous team. We're like, this is the perfect kind of mix. Like we're getting a bit more of a secondary IGL, bit more of a cerebral player, and then we're getting this 16-year-old that can just pop heads.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we got, right? And this was also back in the day when you were allowed to sign 16-year-olds to
I
your
was.
team,
Yep.
which was like we were kind of the last, moment that you could do that. Because people forget that Alpha's 19 years old, but
Mm-hmm.
he's been in the league for 4 years. Like it's so crazy, or 4 seasons, I should say.
Yeah.
Um,
He's a child. Like he's
he's
actually
still, yeah,
he's a little boy. Cause every time I
yeah,
remember that he's like 19 and been here for so long, I'm like, dude, cause I'm 28. And I'm like, dude, when I was 16, I was a little shithead. Like I was it's yeah,
yeah,
it's crazy to me how much he's joined and also mature too. But it's like, but then it's also going to skip forward a little bit too, right? Where it's eventually we go ahead, we get past chance, or Istanbul happens, right? So it's all well and good. But then
yeah,
I think one of the biggest things that you've talked about constantly is then eventually with the 2 spots you need to fill, you brought in Chronicle and Leo, right? Which like I think like that kind of like shifted a lot for Fnatic, especially as you went
yeah.
into kickoff afterwards too, and then then we saw what was Fnatic on everybody's mindset as the team to be essentially. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The expectations were crazy. I mean, we were the first super team, right?
Mhm.
Um, and that super team was only broken up by a disease. So, like who knows what could have happened if we would have stayed healthy last year and been able to push on. Because I think that yeah, Shanghai wasn't great, but I really think that if we would have had some time to work on the issues we had at the time and you know come back fresh for split two, like we could have achieved a lot, right? Like you see what we did. But anyways, we'll talk about 2024 later. 2023 offseason was a bloodbath. Like everyone knows that was that offseason was an absolute mess. Everyone was going. So many players were free agents. So many star players were, and there's a lot of players too that made decisions at that point that has like either turned out to be very good for them or very bad for them. Like
Mm-hmm.
some players are still stuck in those contracts that they signed in that offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, Oxy's still
but I
stuck in
think,
his, bro.
yeah, I mean, there's some players that yeah, you just don't know what a team's going to look like in 2 years, right? I think, or 3 years. Like you never know. Is the org gonna increase their investment? Are they going to decrease their investment? Like, Cloud9's a good example, right? Like 1 year they're going hard for Yay and they're trying to push to like win everything, and then a year later, they're not doing those kinds of investments anymore. So yeah, I think that when it came to that offseason, like our list was pretty clear. Like Leo was the number one priority. We wanted this guy. We've always, like Minnie and I have always just admired him so much. Think that he's so good.
Mm-hmm.
And then after Guild as well, obviously not making it into partnerships, like he was available anyways. And I think I might have said this in the past, but he actually at one point verbally committed to Navi. So there was about a 3-day period where we were like, all right, like let's speak to our next options. There was even like, all right, do we put Kron on Sova and bring in another flex player instead?
Mm-hmm.
So fortunately, I think that there was more thoughts going on, and potentially another offer sent over, and then managed to secure him, and that was a huge moment for us. And then Kron from day one was like, I want to join. Like him and Durga were talking all the time about coming to Fnatic. And once again, it's one of those things where it's like you can tell the guy wants to be there, and that just feels really good, right? And yeah, the expectations were super high, and even we weren't like totally sure how good we were going to be. Like you do your scrims, you get ready for the season. We had our performance coach set up. We had all the tools that we wanted, right? We actually had a new performance coach that came in, UN, who's still a good friend of mine, who joined us at kickoff. Like had never met the boys before, just showed up at kickoff and was a part of that journey. But I mean, lock-in was just, I mean, it was a movie. I know sometimes people say that, but this one genuinely was a movie. It's one of those moments that you'll just never forget in your life.
No, you won't, Mo, because moments like that don't just happen. You don't just come back from being like 10 rounds down. You don't take a pause and think it's all gonna slip away after reaching the finals, right? Because to be fair, Lock-in was a weird tournament. I know people don't count it as a Masters, but I feel like it was kind of like Masters level event, but it's not really a Masters. It was just like really weird format. But I think it gave us like something really interesting, right? It also gave us the whole headband era, a boaster, right? It gave us some crying, and also gave us the start of what people look at Fnatic for today, right? This incredible team with these star players and like massive personalities who can somehow achieve the impossible no matter the situation. Every single one of them can drop 30 sec booster at any time at all.
Hey, against Leviathan, remember Leviathan against in what was it, Copenhagen? I think dropped 30 in that overtime where he was opping in overtime. But yes, you are correct. Most of the time, it's the other four. Yeah.
But to be fair, they don't necessarily need him, right? Because they don't need him to drop like 40 anymore. Right? They never really did because boasters offers so much more to the team, as you talked about already too, and we will a bit more later. But it's like it's just there's so much here, right? And then eventually, you guys been 2 massive tournaments, of which things get tough at champs, right? Just not able to make it. And then, but to be fair, it did lead to a very interesting story about just the rise of this like low tier org with a bunch of unknown players that somehow made it, right? So it made for a cool story, if anything, because if you guys would three-peat, it would have been cool. But hey, at least EG got a chance, right? So they won something.
Yeah, I mean, I still stand by if we didn't have to play Loud, we would have beat them. I still stand by that, and I think even the EG players have said that in like different interviews and stuff, that like thank God Loud took them out, because we just had a thing against them where we had already beaten them twice in the past. But they were always close games, to be fair. Like they were always really fun games against the EG guys, and our players were always friendly with their boys too. So it was never like a bad rivalry, or like it was always a friendly rivalry. And I think the same with Loud, despite everything that happened in Brazil with I just want to talk quickly about actually that moment, because someone was talking about it the other day because I think the Brazilian fans get a lot of shit for lock-in and for how they treated us, quote unquote, like leaving after the game was over, etc. But some of my favorite sports moments in my life were moments where I was in maybe an opposition stadium, or I saw a moment. And I think sports a lot of times is about moments, right? I remember one of my favorite moments. So I'm a big college basketball fan. I don't know if this will connect with many people, but I was a KU basketball fan.
Okay.
I went to KU, and 2008 we won the national championship. And there was a shot from Mario Chalmers where it was like last second buzzer beater to tie the game and to send us to overtime. And I remember that moment so vividly. Like I feel like I'm there right now just thinking about it. And the same emotions apply to the moment that we walked into the stadium and the moment that we lost map 4 of lock-in, where the ground was literally shaking. Like the whole ground was shaking. And those types of moments are just so crazy as a sports fan to like be a part of it, to like be like I'm in this, like I'm a part of history. And I think that lock-in will always hold a special place, and I think most Valorant fans' hearts, because it was the first event, and there will never be another lock-in, right? Like I don't think Riot will ever do something like that again. So for us, it was just a really unique and really special moment. So I just wanted to give the Brazilian fans some credit because they were a big part of making that moment so special, right? Like I love the Japanese fans, but you wouldn't get that same level of craziness and intensity from the Japanese fans. Although I think that the Tokyo win was really special in a different way because they're so loving and appreciative of us, and we always feel so loved when we go there. We go there literally every year, whether it's in the off season or to a tournament. Like we always really love our Japanese fans. So, but yeah, it's just different types of experiences. But those are why I do this job. Like those moments are the moments that make the job worth it, I think.
I agree. As esports fans since like 2014, right? Because I came into loving this game, or like being a part of League of Legends, right? It's like I remember learning who Bjergsen was and being a TSM fan for as long as I can recount, right? And then like it's there are moments like that which you remember forever. I remember when I went to go watch my first like watch my first league finals all alone because no one really watched esports around me. It was 2016 in Toronto, right? And then it was TSM C9, and then like Bjergsen's pentakill, like it was phenomenal. Like I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember when Danny on EG got his first penta.
Got his penta,
Yeah.
with the Jinx rocket,
Yeah,
right?
with the Jinx rocket. Yeah, it was the greatest play I've ever seen, and it was my first time going to like an actual like league like summer finals like with a bunch of my friends right after COVID, right? And like I remember the stadium was half empty, but you could swear that there were 50,000 people in there roaring. I lost my voice after that, right? Because I remember we were all yelling so hard, right? I remember moments like that. As a sports fan, I remember when Kawhi landed that double bounce shot against the 76ers to go ahead and push Raptors towards down the playoffs, right? It's like just like it was game 5, like one final shot. I remember that moment. I remember Kawhi leading down. I remember being with my friends, right? So I agree. There's a lot to be said about what the sport can make you feel, right? And I agree. As like sure, getting booed at when you come out, it's like whatever, man. But like it's fun. It's meant to be fun because they don't mean any harm by it. They just want to support the home crowd, and that being Loud, because Loud at the time was coming in as champs winners. Like they were like so the biggest faces in the league, right? So it makes sense. Makes sense why they were there. So no, I get you. Yeah,
I'll end this chat with one quote, which is from Moneyball, which is when I think it's Brad Pitt's character just says, "How can't you be romantic about baseball?" And that's just how I feel about like any kind of sport. Like how can't you be romantic about the lock-in finals or the Boston Major or this is Rocket League, like all of these moments in esports that I've gotten to be a part of or that I've been like in the scene when it's happened, like so cool. So yeah, anyways, I could nerd out about like this kind of stuff all day, but it's cool stuff. I
exactly.
think.
It is wonderful stuff. As in, what you mentioned before a bit though, like going back to bits about how his team was made as well, right? Where you posted about the almost roster moves, right? That happened. Right? There's been a couple. Have there been any others that are kind of stuck in your mind as to what happened? Because the Saucy one and also the mind, the Forsaken one, stick out to me as the most like. There's no way, like. But are there any others that that kind of stick to you, thinking like, what if this actually happened?
I think that the Sassy one really was the the biggest one for
Mhm.
us, like because I think he was exactly what we needed at that time,
Mhm.
and I think that he would have had a really big impact. And I think that in that off season, like the other options weren't as exciting for us, to be honest. So for us, like losing him to Loud was, but I remember exactly what he said to us. He said, "I have a chance to win a title with Brazilians, from the Brazilian league." And we were like, "All right, respect." In our heads, we were like, "That's not going to happen." But he hadn't shown much to that point, right? The
Mhm.
Brazilian scene hadn't really shown that much in the
Mhm.
internationals. But then respect, the guy went out and he won a world championship, and they built that Loud legacy, and you know he made the right decision. I think there are some times where you're like, I think if you would have joined us, it probably would have been better. But I think I'm kind of happy at the end of the day that he ended up doing what he did, because it created,
Yeah.
you know, a really great story and a really great thing for the Brazilian scene that really
Mhm.
has made Valorant so huge there as well. So
Yeah.
I think outside of that, I mean, yeah, the Forsaken one uh, is an idea that's bounced around so many different times for us. But it's just when a player's been at a team for so long, it's really hard to extract them right from those
It's
situations.
fake until you win.
Um, exactly. Like there are some players where it's just like, you can ask, but is it really going to happen? Like, probably not. Like, and even when you talk to these players, like, if they're on an expiring contract, they're probably renegotiating a new contract with that org anyways.
Mhm.
So it's like, what are you really going to do?
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, outside of that, I mean, like Minnie's talked about it a bunch. Cloud is a player that we rate really highly, and I think that he's super, super talented.
Mhm.
Um, I think that I'm trying to think of who else we would have. I mean, the Sayonara one is obviously one that people are painfully aware of at the moment after going to Vitality. But I genuinely don't know what else we could have done. It's like one of those ones where it's like, well, we really tried. Like we really tried a lot. Like Hoodie is another player we looked at one point. That maybe I haven't mentioned in the past. Um, Lores as well is one we've mentioned in the past, but he was a player that we actually showed up late to the, to the trial because he thought it was like at a later time.
Unfortunate.
But yeah, but he actually played really well. Like he played pretty well in the trial. Like he was dropping big kills.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, like there's always good Turkish players that you're looking at or thinking about. But yeah, I think I've kind of named a lot of the ones in the past that have
Mm.
been mentioned. I don't think there's anything too crazy. Like you always have a list, right? Like there's always a list populated of
Yeah.
different players that could be options. Mata is one I spoke about obviously
Mhm.
recently that we trialed. I think that kid is mega talented
Yeah.
and he's a
Same.
very good vibes player. Like I really really like Adam. Like he's a good kid.
Mhm.
And then I think as well. Yeah, that might be it. To be honest.
Nah, I got you. Yeah.
No, I mean like even Brock was on our list in the past.
Yeah.
Like yeah, like there are always players, right? Like you're always trying to stay aware of what's out there and
Mhm.
what you could do, because especially with the import slots, right? Like you do have that slot. Austin being here is part of that. So,
Yeah.
um, but I don't think you can be as crazy as you used to be. Like in the past that didn't exist, or you could have two imports or whatever it used to be. But now it's a lot. You have to be way more focused on like if we're bringing an import, we have to be pretty sure that, and that's why I think you see the caliber of players that get brought in as imports, right?
Mhm.
Artists in the past after that great season he had.
Yeah.
Same thing with Les this year, right? For Vitality, like
Yeah.
it's only the best of the best players that get imported because a, it's normally more expensive, and B, it's harder to get them to your country normally. Whereas if you sign a European, like they can be at the office tomorrow and they can start playing. So,
Yeah.
and it's way harder to trial them too.
And you brought up before too, where it's like the pressure of handling superstars, right? In terms of personalities and how you choose to market them versus how you choose to like be able to hold them back, right? They talked about this a bit before, where like boaster is like someone who you've like tried to keep like okay, consider he gets so much attention, but then also at the same time balance building up the other players around you, right? Now I've been lucky enough to talk to every single one of your players, right? Both in the past and presently. Like most recently, it's been kayak, and it's like there's a lot to be said here about what these players offer and what they do. But I want to get your perspective and like kind of understanding of it too, right? Because of how you balance that, especially with some players, they'll get too overwhelmed with how much that's just constantly on them because everyone wants to speak to them, everyone wants their 10 minutes, everyone wants to like get their take, their view, their whatever, just because like they're the face of it. But you have four other players who you also have a job to build up as people. Because let's say if they stay or not, they you do want them to leave if they do leave successfully and like have a future elsewhere as well.
Yeah, I think for us, I think it's not a coincidence that most players that come to Fnatic look their best at Fnatic. Like I think there are very few players that have left Fnatic and have looked better after they've left. And I really do think that's because we have something at Fnatic called the leadership team. And that is a combination of the head coach, the IGL, myself, our performance coach, and then the assistant coach.
Mm.
And this group of people, we all come together and we talk weekly about what's going on in the team, what are potential risk factors, and these could be things that are months down the line, but maybe things we just need to think about, or if a player has a certain issue going on, or
Mm-hmm.
and then we go through, okay, well, which of us is going to be the person to approach this player about this thing if it needs to be addressed? And every single member of the staff, right, is going to have a different relationship with each player,
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I have a obviously very long history with both Alpha and Jake and Kron. I've worked with them for a very long time. So there might be some conversations that are better for me to take with them compared to, Milan, who's, only been here for 4 or 5 months and only been head coach for 1 or 2 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it's all just about balancing the skills and the abilities of the people that you have around you and using them appropriately. It's the same thing with the performance coach. Like the performance coach is going to be much better positioned to, for example, work on players with their routines or to help them with their gym regimen or to help them with all of these things. And I think that a lot of times, like one or two or three of these things are being neglected at other teams, which is why you see players struggling or burning out or, maybe not fully meshing into the team. Because I think that I've always just tried to make our team a place where it's very easy to work and very easy to exist. So if there are issues, like that's something that I'm going to try and address as quickly as possible and work with the rest of the organization to find fixes for it to address the complaints that come from my staff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as well, like one thing that we've always tried to do too is not be a team that complains,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that that's like a plague in a team. And it's even a conversation I had to have with Boaster early on where he was complaining a lot about different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I pulled him aside at one point and I'm like, when you complain, it makes it okay for everyone else to complain. If the issue exists, bring it to me, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But once we've identified the issue and we know we're working on it, we shouldn't talk about it anymore. Because a lot of these issues at different international events, and I think this is why we've always done pretty well at international events, is all these different teams are like, they're bitching and they're moaning and they're complaining. I'll give you a really good example of in Tokyo. The internet basically did not work at the hotels. Like it was pretty much impossible to practice, right? And we knew this was an issue. And so what I thought was, well, I'm going to go and find a different place to practice then because this is not working. So I just went, looked at the rule book, saw that there was no rule about practicing, that you had to practice at the right facility.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said, called up Crazy Raccoon,
Mm-hmm.
our buddies over there in Japan, said, hey, can we come down and practice from your facility? They were like, yeah, sure, that's fine. 2 hours later, we're in a huge air conditioned space. Everyone's got their own PC, their own like breathing space, like massive room. We're right in the middle of Tokyo. Like you can walk to the kombini and get your little snacks, like,
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes away. Like, and it was a way better environment. And I think that these are the kind of things where it's like you always have to be thinking about how you can get the extra 1% or the extra advantage on the other team and give your players the best conditions possible. Whereas I think a lot of teams, even at that event, other teams complained about us. They were like, "What the heck? They went and they got themselves better conditions." Or like, "You guys could have done it too,"
Sucks to
you
suck.
know. And then they changed the rule after that event. But for that one event that we won, by the way, we had better practice, we had better facilities, we had better conditions. And yeah, that's always the one moment where I'm like, you point at these things, and I think that that's where you have to find the competitive advantages. It's not just in getting better players. Like it's not just in it's everything, right? It's having a performance coach that's not just a performance coach that fits with your team, that fits with the ethos of the team, and that the players are bought into. Because I think that's what you find too is that you bring in players, they have wildly different ideas of how teams should be run, or you have the head coach defining everything on how the team should be run, or you have players that have way too much control. Whereas I think for us, we have always had a very clear hierarchy, a very clear way of making decisions, and a very clear way of how to, handle players and their issues when they come up. And I think that the feedback we always get from our players is that they feel supported, they feel like they have what they need, they feel like they can tell us things that, they probably wouldn't say in other teams. They would just keep to themselves and keep hidden and then, just deal with it on their own. But, even, we've you could have a player that's here for a month and all of a sudden they'll tell you something extremely personal. Like Alpha, when he joined, there was something very personal for him that was going on that he told us quite quickly, and we were able to be aware of that. And then it means that we can act as a staff better when we have that information, right? Because I think that that's one thing too about the leadership group is that every single member of the staff and the IGL is going to get different information from different players about different things going on, but the rest of us won't be aware of that information unless we actually come and all talk about it together, right?
Right.
So we go in the leadership meeting, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I didn't know that that player was, struggling, or that player was having a potential conflict with another player. And then that means that we can deal with it as a group instead of piecemeal, or just the head coach is doing his best to jump around and put out fires. Like for us, it's about finding the fires and putting them out early and doing our best in terms of referencing and knowing as much as we can about the players to make sure that when they come in, they know what's expected of them, and we know what potential problems there are going to be. Because not every player has their shit, just like how every person has their shit, every player has their shit. And as long as it's manageable and it's something that we can work with, then, then they'll probably work on Fnatic. But if this stuff is too much, I think at this point we have a pretty good monitor on like what is too much, what's going to affect things too much, and then it's going to become a problem quickly. So yeah,
that's beautiful. Because and I imagine that's also how you guys manage to learn to deal with the pressure of all these expectations on you constantly, right? Because you are in constant communication with yourself and the team too, right? But I think like you're saying too, right? That's also how you guys were to kind of push your team as well too, right? Because there's more than just as much people like to say, because like the naturally the biggest personality in your team is boaster, right? But then there are 4 other players too as well that I find you guys have done a good job of trying to push into the spotlight of like, hey, he does this, he does this, right? Whether it be through your content or like depending on who you deny or accept for interviews, right? It just depends on like how much screen time you manage to give them, just to ensure that they're being still pushed and understood that how and why they're part of the team. Because like honestly, because like I remember when I talked to Kayak, I was like, I don't know how many of the interviews he's done. It's like but he's a really cool kid. He's super smart. He's really funny. He is mega loyal to his girlfriend, which is really funny, right? So it's like it was a lot of fun to get to talk to them, right? Now on some fun shit that I've had saved for a while because I wanted to at least go through this because I love this stuff. So now I want to try to interlace it usually in between, but I was like, this was talking to you was omega fun. So I'll go with these pretty quickly. Now, you are a big K-pop fan. Now, I've learned to be common over the past little bit, right? So, take me through your favorite groups and your biases.
All right. So I would say that, well, recently I've just on a side, I've really enjoyed what Jenny's been putting out. I think that like Jenny is one of my favorite, like, I don't even know if you call it a K-pop song, like I know she's a K-pop artist, but that's just such a good song. And I think a lot of like most of Jenny's album is like a no skips pretty much on that whole album she just put out. And
Extra L is good. Love Hangover is good. Like Jenny's good.
Yes.
It's like it's a lot of
Love
songs
Hangover when
really
it came out. Oh man, so good.
Really, really good. And plus she had Childish Gambino on there, and Childish Gambino is my favorite artist ever. So I was like, let's go. Yeah. Go on.
I actually was supposed to see Childish Gambino in concert, but then obviously he got sick right on his tour, so he had to cancel the rest of his tour. So yeah, that was
dude.
that hurt.
I'm sorry. I saw his farewell tour because I've seen him twice in concert. I remember those
Yeah,
were the first concerts I saw and paid for myself. I was like, it was. I mean, it was really cool. I'm sorry you couldn't get to see it, but it's like, to be fair
yeah,
though, yeah, I've it was just good, man. Sorry, go on.
yeah.
That you were talking about.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sorry, but my actual super quick top five is like Le Seraphim would be
Mhm.
number one. Yunjin is my bias
Yes,
for sure.
you did not get
I
yes.
Yeah, I really like the Americans, to be honest. I think that's
Mhm,
kind of a theme of like Americans and Australians.
mhm,
Um, XG, I really like as well. I was
mhm.
so jealous when Pacific got their own song from XG, and I think
Dude,
that Undefeated song is a banger as well.
so good. Yeah.
Um, I saw them in Berlin when they came, and
Mhm.
it was really fun. Harvey is
Yeah,
my bias on XG,
dude.
and then Nmix
Mhm.
as well is a
Mhm.
big one for me. I
Yeah.
think that they're like probably the best vocals in this current generation.
I have been
Like,
saying this for years. Every single one of NMix is so talented. If you just hear
yeah,
Lily talk, you're able to understand
yeah. I mean,
how
you've already
it's
predicted you
dude.
predicted my bias already.
Dude,
So
she's just so good, man. I'm personally
yeah,
a Bay and Haywan enjoyer, personally. Yeah.
yeah, I
Uh,
really like K1 as well. Yeah.
yeah. Just
But if you haven't seen their, I mean, I'm sure you have, but like just generally, if people have not seen their Tiny Desk, they were the first K-pop group
so
to ever do
a
to
tiny
ever do a Tiny Desk,
with no backtrack,
and
no
it
nothing. It
was
was
yeah,
so good, dude.
exactly. They were saying like this is our first time ever performing without in-ear monitors,
Yeah.
and they smashed it. They were so good. And Lily, yeah, is probably like my whatever Ultra, is that the name of like your
Mhm.
ultimate favorite member like in
Yeah.
all of K-pop? I think Lily is so talented. And then Twice as well, of course. And
Mhm.
Sana is, yeah. I mean,
I
what can you say that hasn't already been said?
I agree. Look,
Like,
I am personally Jiho and Sana, but it's like I
yeah,
used to be I used to be like a Momo girly, but I was like, no, I think Sana's the truth.
yeah,
Like it's just there's something there. She's way too fun, but Jiho is just
yeah.
I think Jiho's just my ultra. Like she's just God. There's something
She
about
just
her.
loves doing it, you know? Like, I think
Mhm.
that's what I really like about certain K-pop artists or like artists in general is when you can tell that they're having fun. And Gio just like always looks like she's having fun, which is
Mhm.
what you want to see with your artists.
Mhm.
Because I'll be honest, I saw Espa in London, and those girls did not look like they were having fun. Like
Uh,
that was the worst K-pop show I've seen.
dude.
So I'm sorry
Ah,
all for all the Espa stands, but
yeah.
yeah,
Ah,
it was
because I saw Expo in
it was not good.
Toronto, and like to be fair, the crowd was kind of meh. But I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, they just didn't look like they wanted to be there. And
no,
then I think I was
yeah,
kind of reflected with the crowd was also like, what are we doing? Like it was okay. And they
yeah,
also lip sync a lot.
yeah, they do.
I
It's
think I heard their
rough.
live vocals like once. And like look like I like Karina. You know, like I think a song up really good. I would have
Hmm.
loved to hear it if she sang it.
Would have been nice. I thought Winter's solo was the best moment of the night for me,
Hmm.
but even still, I was just like, I don't know if this was worth the whatever 150 I paid for this. Like, because I saw Baby Monster in Korea like early on, and I think the ticket for that was like $40,
Hmm.
and I was like, they're jumping around, like they're having a good time, they're loving it, and I'm like, this is way. They had 6 songs at the time, and I'm like, I'm enjoying this way more than I enjoyed the Espa show. So,
By the way, Baby
and then
Monster's
Kiss
one
of
too.
Life would be my last one.
I'm in Kiss of Life. I think I remember I saw same thing happen to you, which happened to me. I had tickets to see them in Toronto,
Bro.
and it canceled
Yeah,
last
bro,
minute, bro.
on the train platform.
What?
What is this? On the train platform. I was about to leave. Like, fortunately, I hadn't left yet, but I was like, "This is ridiculous. Like,
Yeah,
how are you gonna cancel?"
it's actually so fucking bullshit. Like I was so sad because like luckily ours was like the morning of, but it was still like well like it was I think it was about 3 hours before. I was like, man, really, bro? We're like why? It was yeah, it was shit. Cause like Kiss of Life
Yeah,
was a group I remember like I heard like very early on, right? Like way before Midas Touch came out. And I was like, wait, these guys are kind of goaded. All their vocals are
yeah,
good. And I remember they got the Valorant soundtrack, right? As well
yep.
too. They came on and then a bunch of them got to meet them too. Like all my homies working that shit.
I got to meet
You're
him.
fucking kidding. You're
Yeah,
joking.
that's why I was like upset, right, about the Kiss of Life stuff that I didn't get to see them. But I was
Yeah.
like, well, I did get to meet Natty and Julie, so
And fuck you.
you know, and I even got like signatures from them. And I remember I was like, I'm a 29-year-old man, and I'm fucking shaking, handing the album to them. Like, can you
Did,
please sign this?
did you get like shake their hands and shit or?
Uh, no, I didn't get to. No, but I
Okay,
mean, like, I got a bunch of stuff signed for me and Jake.
nice.
Because he was like filming that. I don't know if you saw it TikTok he did with them, where they were like
Yeah.
dancing in the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're super nice, like
Mm-hmm.
super sweet. So it was a cool experience to like get to be in the same
Yeah,
air, I guess,
dude.
whatever you want to say.
Oh, I
But
was
yeah,
so jealous, man. But that's so sick. That's cool for you. Look, one thing I can always claim is that I met Jackson Wang. You know, I got to chill with him.
that's pretty cool.
And Jackson said that my voice was sexy because at the press conference, my voice
Oh,
was deep, and he was like, "Dude, you have a nice
nice.
voice," and I was like, "Let's fucking go." All right.
Hell yeah, that's a winner.
Yeah, at least take
But I would
that.
say the only show I really have left that I still need to see La Seraphim.
Hmm.
Like they're doing, I think they're doing their like world tour
Yeah.
that is like only America and Asia, unfortunately.
Hmm.
So that'll be tough. And then Blackpink, they came to Berlin last time.
Hmm.
They're not coming to Berlin this time. So I don't know. It feels like I'm gonna get a bit screwed
Do you
on
even want to
this.
see Blackpink again, though, bro? Because like, look, what are they gonna do? Like 5 little
I
songs and their solos?
That's what I want to see though. I want to
Those are
see like
the
Jenny in person, you know. And also, I'm actually like my bias is Rose. Actually, is not
Really?
even. Yeah, it's not even Jenny. But
Okay.
I've just really liked what Jenny has put out recently. It used to be Lisa.
Hmm.
But Lisa's new album is. I'm sorry, but there's a
Awful.
few good songs, but it's whack.
It's dog.
It's
Yeah,
not good.
it's really bad.
I'm like, I heard like Jenny, and I was like, should this not be like Lisa? Like this surely is like the type of stuff that Lisa should be putting out.
Hmm.
But I think there's some stuff right about like her management, how she like went independent, and then like like Rose just has way better, and so does Jenny have like way better management. That's just like obviously APT or whatever has
Yeah,
gone crazy. So, but yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I remember thinking La Lisa and Money were like international hits. I was like, cool, more of this, right? And then you get
Money
whatever
is such a banger.
is so good, and then you get whatever like New Woman was, and I was like, I guess, bro. Because I
Yeah,
like Roselia, because I like
yeah,
listening
me
to
too. Yeah,
reggaeton, right? So that I'm like, cool, this should be cool. I'm like, fuck are we doing? Like, actually, like, we were trolling on the server. We're actually throwing leads. Like, it's like, why? Like, it
yeah.
just, yeah, it was shit. It was absolute shit. But I'm glad we agree. That's what's up. I am a Jenny bias personally, so it's like, and I have been since I found out because I remember I watched a documentary in COVID. Right, I think it's called Light of the Sky or something, and I was like, man, what's going on here? Like, this was like, I was like, who's Blackpink? And then I consumed everything. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that
On
was
the
how.
Ground actually was what got me into Rose. I really like that song too. Like
Oh,
one of her first solo, On the Ground.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, that one.
yeah, yeah. Good song.
Yeah.
Yeah, as well. That's a good song too. Right? I remember. I think mine was like when I saw Solo, by Jenny. I was like,
Mm,
this is also pretty good too. Yeah,
yeah.
dude. Jenny's always had just like kind of banger like individual stuff.
Yeah. They've been more low key in the past, but now they're very
Hmm.
high key bangers. For
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. Hell yeah. Now, also on similar thing too was 5 anime to get to know you as a person.
Ooh.
Not your top 5 list, not your whatever. Like if you have like
Sure.
like a list that you're like these would define to me.
So like the weird thing for me is actually that I didn't really get into anime until I was
Really?
22, 23. Yeah. So I mean like I did watch Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon when I was a kid,
Same.
Saturday morning
Hell
cartoons.
yeah. On
So I don't
4K
know how
too.
much you like, yeah, count those. Um, but
I do.
yeah, I would say in terms of like my modern like anime journey,
Mm-hmm.
I would say that Haikyuu is for sure one of them.
Banger.
It was
Banger.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a recommendation from Boaster actually. He
Mm-hmm.
kept telling me, he's like, I know you will love this show. Please watch this show. And I was like, whatever. Like, I hadn't watched much anime at that point. I was like, all right, fine. I finally watched it, and it was so funny because there's there's stuff that like Daichi says.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wait a second, Jake. That speech you gave last week
That was
sounds eerily similar
that was
to
Daichi.
yeah. Oh my god. I was like, oh, we've got a little Daichi cosplayer going on here. But no, I just think
Yes.
that Haikyuu is like once again another one of those shows, or like is just one of those things where
Hmm.
those moments that you remember. You
Kirishima,
know,
the block, season 3.
yes, the
Yeah.
block, and that's like sports. The joy that Suki feels right
Mhm.
after he makes the block, and he's just like, starts going hype, and you're like, oh,
And
how can't you be romantic
I know,
about volleyball?
dude. I know. It's the first time you see him pop off and show emotion. We're like, he does
Yes.
care. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it was the same thing as well when the garbage fight, whatever it was called, the dumpster
Hmm.
battle,
Yeah, yeah.
where against Nekoma, where he
Hmm.
slips on the sweat because he's finally working hard,
Hmm.
because he's finally realizes that he cares. Like all these moments where you're just like you can relate to it so much working in sports, and you just appreciate it because you remember those times, whether it was you were in high school or even in esports, right, where you're just like so burned out, you're so dead, but you just want to keep pushing and you want to keep working. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
Haikyuu is like such a nice parable for a lot of the different kind of sports moments we go through
Hmm.
as working in this field. So yeah, that's a big one. Frieren is another one.
Okay.
I mean, what can you say about Frieren? Once again, that hasn't already been said. That it's such a beautiful, um, such a beautiful anime. Like makes you think about time, about death, about how you want to spend your life, the people you want to spend it with, and appreciating the moments when they happen. I think
Hmm.
like living in the moment a little bit more. I think that was a show that
Yeah.
had like a really profound impact on me as it did on I'm sure millions of other people that have
Hmm.
watched that show.
Yeah.
Um, then I would say Spy Family as well, which is funny because I'm literally staring at yep, exactly. Spy Family, Spy X Family, whatever, who cares what you call it? It's a
Yeah.
great show. Once again, another nice parable. Like I'm very close with my parents and with my family, so this kind of like thing about this unorthodox family that comes together and just shows that they love each other no matter what, and they'll always support each other. Like
Hmm.
I just think it's a really sweet. Like I always feel warm, when I'm watching that show. It just feels good.
Dude, I love that anime so much, man. It sucks because the author of it, like, or the mangaka doesn't like his manga.
I
Because
don't know.
yeah, because he views it as just like kind of like shill content that he made to be successful, but he doesn't fucking like them. So I'm like, man, that sucks because
That
it's really
makes
good, but yeah, it is what it is. Yes.
that makes me really sad. I
Yeah.
wish I didn't know that.
I'm sorry.
Um,
Yeah.
it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I would say the next one would actually be Attack on Titan.
Mm-hmm.
I
Gotcha.
know I'm naming just a lot of good anime, but like when I got recommended anime, fortunately the people that recommended me anime were like really good
Yeah.
animes that they recommended me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Attack on Titan is just such a I really like. I mean, like I'm a huge movie buff. I'm a huge like television buff, and I think that it was the first time when I watched anime where I got hooked instantly, and I think it's one of the best first episodes of television of all time. You know,
Yeah.
I think that there's so few shows that can just pull you in like that. Like I compare it actually it's very similarly to the opening of Last of Us, the video game,
Wow.
where it just pulls you in and like you're like, all right, well, I'm here along for the ride until this ends. Like that's how strong that opening is. So yeah, and then I would say my last one is actually sorry, I'm actually looking at my anime list right now because I was trying to think of the last one, but Akame ga Kill, which
Really?
is I know, and this is one I get shit for a lot. I think that show is like it's just every degenerate part of me just enjoys that show. Like there's stupid fan service, there's stupid fighting. I also think the manga is like way better
Yes.
in
Yes.
terms of the how dark it gets and how like that underbelly of the city is actually really
And the
crazy.
storytelling of the manga as well too is like consistent,
Yes.
whereas in the anime they skip like half the plot, which is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you want a more serious one that isn't trash, Apothecary Diaries would be my
Ooh.
last one.
Okay.
I think that show is. I think that sometimes in anime, obviously, you can get a lot of very vapid, very like
Mhm.
fan servicey female characters, and I think that Mao Mao is probably my favorite female character in anime next
Go.
to Anya.
Yeah.
Like maybe my favorite adult female
Hmm.
character, because yeah, she's such a badass, and she just likes what she likes, and she wants to do the right thing, and she doesn't care about everything that's going around her. So yeah, I have a little sister, so I think maybe that's part of why I connect to like very like brotherly senses going on there of like I want to see her do well, and I think that show is also just is really well animated and really beautiful show as well, and the
Yeah.
story is very engaging. So another one that Boaster recommended me. So shout
Dude,
out to Boaster.
dude, Boaster has some
He doesn't
good.
miss.
Yeah.
He doesn't
He
miss.
actually has some like good recommendations. That's dope. Like I agree.
Yeah.
So Apothecary's Guided, right? Based upon that, I'm gonna tell you a quick list of anime that I personally watched that you love, and also some of them are also on my top 5 as well too. Like one, I think I mentioned you right before is Parasite the Maxim, right? Similar things about like what it means to be human, like just good animation, a lot of fun, like excellent fighting scenes, but also like really deep plot to it and really well thought out in terms of dialogue, right? Two,
Yeah.
Death Parade is one that I don't think gets recommended enough. Also,
Okay.
another one of my top 5 as well too. Like again, exploring the themes of life and death. It's about a bartender which exists within like the middle of a bar where essentially people come in and they kind of live out their like lives, whether it be sins or like the good or bad, and like you kind of choose whether you go up or down, right? And it's a very interesting concept that just really cool, really good animation, and one of the best openings of all time in anime. Straight up, no doubt, just
Yeah.
flat out, right? It's just really cool. On the same fantasy realm the Ancient Magus's Bride. Is one that's kind of low key, but it's like incredible animation as well too. Like really beautiful. The colors are so pristine and sound. It's very fantasy esque. It's about like like what you kind of label as monsters as well too, right? It's a high fantasy setting, but it's very cool, and like kind of the story kind of unravels around you on what you believe to be true versus false as well. Gorgeous stuff.
Yeah.
And the last one I would say based on what you said, right? If you haven't already, read Slam Dunk. Right? Slam
Yeah.
Dunk I think it's progenitor, progenitor.
Progenitor. Yeah.
Yeah. That's that word for for just sports anime
Yeah.
competition and what it means to be part of a team. Every single
Yeah.
character is flushed out, well done, and it's just good. Also, if you go to Japan, I know what you do every single year, getting Slam Dunk merch is probably one of the hardest things you can do, bro.
Yeah. I really rarely see slam dunk stuff. Yeah, it's really rare.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's what's the other basketball anime that's quite big? Kuroko no
Kuroko
Basket,
Basket,
is
yeah.
that?
Which is like,
Yeah.
it's all right.
I see that stuff everywhere, but I every once in a while I'll see slam dunk stuff, and it's so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing like a whole set of the starting five, and it was
Yeah.
like, I don't know, like 1.5K or 1K or
Yeah.
something. It was ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one for sure on the list that I know I need to complete my sports anime education for
It's
sure. Because I know ping pong the animation is one that people tell me as well
mm-hmm.
that is very highly rated that I need to watch at some
Yeah,
point too.
exactly. It's fun, and like one that I like a lot is like once you which I don't know how much you've like kind of like studied to learn Japanese well too, right? Which but when I was learning it a lot too is there's the Bakemonogatari series, which is just
Hmm.
like it's just stupid. It's
Yeah.
stupid. It's funny. It's interesting. It has like kind of like shit like kind of fan service stuff at times too, but it's just a fun series. It's a good time. Same with Gintama as well too. Like Gintama is another one where it's like just like probably one of
Yeah.
the best comedy animes ever made, right? So there's that. But it's my little list for you as well for what you have. And final question I'll ask you: your Valorant dream team for where any players you could sign from any region, aside from your own boys, would it be?
I think my initiator core would probably be Cloud and Forsaken,
Okay.
players that I've already spoken about that I know are just
Mhm.
very talented and would work well together in that system.
Yeah.
I think Nats as well right now is showing himself to be one of the next great up and coming IGLs. Like we all know he's a great player, right? But
Yeah.
he's showing that he can kind of produce mechanically while like leading his team to wins in international events.
Yeah.
So that means I need a controller.
Yep.
And I need a sentinel.
Yep.
Or no, because Nats I guess would play sentinel in this.
And Forsaken can play
and
like
a duelist.
every
Sorry,
role, bro.
yeah, Forsaken can play everything. So I need a controller and I need a duelist. Really, like I would say that if his English was at the level that I would want, I would actually pick Zeus.
Okay.
I think the kid is. We trialed him in the off season, and he is mega talented.
Yeah.
But I actually told him and his agency that he should go to Foot because I just don't think he was quite ready for an English speaking team.
Right.
But I thought that like Foot was a really good place for him to, start to grow and start to, reach the levels that, we all think he can.
Yeah.
Had a few really good moments against us last night, and you can definitely see that the skill is there.
Yeah.
But he just needs some time to grow.
Yeah.
I already have an IGL, but I've always loved Mako. I mean, like that's how I'm like an old head, Valorant guy.
Yeah.
Is that I still think Mako's so good, and I think as well if he didn't have to, like we saw how good he is when like he's still playing well, right?
Yeah.
Even while IGLing right now, but when he doesn't have that pressure on him of IGLing, then I think it'd be so good. Obviously, this is like if everyone spoke English, and it would actually work that way. But yeah, I think Forsaken, Cloud, Nats, Mako, and
Zeus.
maybe Zeus or Mata.
Yeah,
even would be good.
Okay, cool.
Because I just think that they both have really, really high ceilings.
Yeah.
And my brain is also working like, all right, we need some veterans, like we need some young guys, like there needs to be some balance, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not just gonna say like every 24-year-old like current star player because we know that doesn't really work unless the team is structured in a way that means that it'll work long term. So yeah, something like that, and then we'll bring Minnie back as the head coach from retirement for one last year.
Yeah,
see if we can make it happen. But no, I do owe a lot of our success for sure to Minnie and the relationship that him and I had, and how much we built this team together and this project together, and every bit of success that we have here at Fnatic, like there's always that little stamp of Minnie, I think, on it now for the rest of our history, which is really nice to think of because he's a good dude, and I always really enjoyed working with him. So
one of the best coaches of the game, like bar none, especially not so good that he's helping PRX make Toronto, bro.
Yeah, I was like, Minnie, are you allowed to do that? Are you allowed to be giving tips to teams that are actively playing? All right, fair enough, respect.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
All he needs to do is has one conversation and they make it all the way to top 3. So
which is crazy. So it's like, dude, Minnie, just come back, bro. It's like look, Milan's great. Like we love Milan, but it's like just come vibe. Like he
does actually come whenever we have a party at the Fnatic HQ. He always comes by, and like he's always around. So like we have this hashtag at Fnatic. It's hashtag always Fnatic, and he knows that he'll always be part of the family, and I know he always supports us and hopes that we do well. So yeah, it's good to see that he's after a bit of a rough first cast in EMEA, he definitely is like doing way better, and I actually really enjoy his casts now. So.
Yeah, he's coming into his own. He's working well as like an analyst. It's just like he needs to just find his voice as well too, which is like he's already kind of quiet guy. Like if he could just project more, I was like, dude, you'd be incredible. But nonetheless, though, love him and appreciate him a lot too. He's the reason why I have this scarf, and which I love deeply, right? Because to me, this means like history as well, like the game that I love, and on that as well too, which I was wonderful to find out about the game and team you love as well, Cojo too. This was a journey. I have like 40 more questions that I could have talked to you for another hour and a half, but honestly, I would respect your time, and I appreciate yours as well too. This was wonderful, lightning. Thank you so much for being on, man. I do really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, this was a fun conversation, and nice to chat, and I'll see you in Toronto, hopefully.
Damn right, brother, you will. And
Toronto.
See,
yeah.
Thank you. Proud of you, man.
That'll it's character growth.
Let's go. So that's what all about. Take care, man. Bye bye.
Yeah.